All right, here is group 2 for
Yeah.
Euphemia and Mendel, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
So we have 20 minutes.
we do.
Um,
Um, and I
did
know, like, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say. So clearly you had requested some
Yeah.
time with the Mendel. What did you have in mind?
So I was thinking that, like, Euphemia, given recent events, probably wants to look into fencing lessons. So that might be something she could approach Mendel about. Depending on, like, pacing and time, it could also be fun to have, like, Pragma and De Golden Apave as well, perhaps. Though I'm, like, less solid on that.
All right, let's start out with our civilian identities.
Yeah.
Because in the previous scene I was entirely civilian.
Yeah, same.
Um, so I think maybe Mendel has asked Euphemia to dance.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And so the two of them are on the dance floor, and a conversation has been struck up.
Yeah. And Mendel is dressed.
So
Hold on.
Mendel is dressed as Bovo, who is the hero of this chivalric romance that it doesn't originate in Yiddish literature, but the Yiddish translation was the most popular Yiddish
Hmm,
translation of the medieval. It was the most popular Yiddish chivalric romance of the medieval era.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's dressed as this kind of medieval hero in a kind of understated way. Like,
Mhm.
he's not super comfortable at these things without the even without the masquerade component, but he's starting to loosen up a little bit because one of the first people he saw was Eurydice, who's a familiar face, and that kind of helped him ease into it.
Yeah.
So he's starting to loosen up slightly, but he's still a little bit like, really, they invited me to this thing? Uh,
Well, it wasn't an invitation. It was like we bought our way in with tickets.
yeah, the way that I had framed it was enough people he knew were going that
Mm,
it was kind of like, it's going to be really weird if I'm not there. But
yeah.
I don't really want to go.
Prom vibes.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
prom vibes.
Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
so we're dancing.
we're dancing.
Um, so I know you by reputation, Miss Selkirk, but I don't believe we've ever met before.
No, I don't think we've had the occasion, Mr. Raskin. Um, only distant acquaintance, really. But it is good to get the chance, and I know that you have something of a professional history with my good friend Eurydice. She's mentioned
Uh,
your swordsmanship with some praise.
yes, we've gone against each other in a few matches from time to time. Uh, I have great respect for Eurydice. Uh, she has made considerable progress in the time that I've known her.
Yes, she is very excellent from everything that I've seen, though admittedly I myself
Your audio has cut out. I cannot hear anything currently.
okay.
Oh, now I can hear you. There we go.
Okay.
I think
My
it
mic.
might just be. I think it may just be a connection thing because your video is very pixely as well. So,
It might be as well. Like my mic is a little temperamental, so sometimes it does that. So hopefully
all right.
things work out better.
So you were saying that she's
Oh yeah, she's
very
excellent.
excellent.
But I myself am admittedly a novice in the art,
Hmm.
though I've been had the recent mind to change that. What with all the recent goings on, it seems prudent to learn proper technique.
I've been hearing that from a number of people. Yes.
Yes. I believe Miss Eloise Beckett had just mentioned that she'd begun training with you. Yes.
Yes, I have been working with her for some time.
Yes. She and as well Miss Selena Colborne both, I just spoke with them, had excellent things to say about you.
Really, Miss Colborne.
Yes, she called you a very good, but rather, oh, I don't remember her exact turn of phrase. It might have been demanding teacher.
uh, that does sound like Selena. Yes.
Uh, she is a dear and a plant, so I would feel, admittedly, a touch of guilt to put myself under the tutelage of Eurydice's rival, but perhaps as well that might make the whole thing more fun.
Uh, I would not describe my relationship with Eurydice as a rivalry,
Oh,
if it would put your mind at ease. I consider Eurydice a colleague.
I see. I think she might
Uh,
have a slightly different opinion on the matter, but
I
still in
don't
a
think
fully
I don't think
professional.
so. Eurydice and I are friends. Uh, we enjoy going up against one another when a tournament rolls around, but our relationship is not a contentious one.
Can one not be friends and rivals both? In matters such as this, at least.
I suppose, but the word feels so heated to me. I prefer to avoid it.
Very well. You do make a strong point then, and my apologies for mischaracterizing that.
No, no, not at all. Uh, I merely wish to clarify in case you wish to come study at the academy, uh, whether you're with me personally or with my brother, uh, if your connection to Mrs. Haskett were to be giving you misgivings or doubts, it shouldn't. Uh,
I appreciate that. No, I don't think it gives me any real misgivings, any sort of doubts. Hmm.
yeah. I should let you know that uh, my brother, at least recently, usually teaches some of our novice students. I have been devoting more of my time to some of our more advanced students, like Miss Beckett.
Hmm.
Uh, but so I just want to be entirely clear so that you don't sign up to the academy expecting me specifically. It is possible, based on scheduling and based on your level of experience, you may end up working with my brother rather than me.
No, I fully understand that, and I have no desire to make demands or anything of the sort. Um, I I admit I don't have much in the way of practical experience, but I have read a few um, manuals or tomes on fencing and sword philosophy, I suppose one might call it. I don't know to what extent that really would translate
Hmm.
into a classroom and into actual technique.
He gets a glassy look in his eye and he says, I'm suddenly reminded of another student we have. A, a short, kind of ineffectual uh, man. Uh, the name escapes me at the moment.
Um, Out of character, really quick, is that Archimedes or someone else?
Yes. Yes, it's Archimedes.
Okay, great. Yeah, which is enough in character for Euphemia to recognize her friend. So I think like she does light up a little. You wouldn't happen to mean Mr. Archimedes Pendleton, would you?
uh, Perhaps it's possible. I only worked with him briefly before he started studying with my brother.
I see. Well, I'll have to look into it then. It seems almost everyone in town is enrolled at your school. Honestly, it's very
Yes,
impressive.
things have been doing quite well for us.
That's good.
But enough about me. What exactly do you do with your time, Miss Selkirk?
I am. Admittedly, I don't tend to do a whole lot with that time besides read or help tend to Mr. Martinez's home and affairs in whatever ways that I can.
Hmm.
I'm afraid it's not the most exciting thing to talk about, though I am more than happy to talk about it.
I see.
I admit, I suppose I'm almost jealous. It seems like a life of fencing and teaching must be very exciting at the very least.
Oh, no more exciting than any other living. Uh, I know a lot about this particular skill or craft, and I make a living teaching other people how to do it. Uh, it's no different than someone running any other kind of school. Uh, this school is just focused on one particular domain of knowledge.
That is well, like I think she takes that like seems to really weigh and consider that, like that is well said, and it is. It seems a lovely existence then to get to channel your passion and your knowledge for that one field,
I
even if it is
suppose.
from another.
I,
Sorry.
I, su- I suppose I hadn't considered uh, this being something I'm especially passionate about. Uh, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I certainly am rather skilled at, but uh, that's simply a framing that I had never considered or used myself. Uh, I suppose with this being uh, a tradition going back in my family, uh, I had not considered uh, it being a passion. That's a very interesting word.
And I think you've piqued my curiosity, Mr. Raskin. If this is not your passion, where do you find them?
I don't. I don't know that. Uh, he pauses a moment to think. I think you and I may be finding fulfillment in very different ways.
Hmm.
I find fulfillment in routine and carving out my uncomplicated sort of existence uh, in the way that I know how to do. Uh, Passion is a bit high minded for that. It's not to say I don't love what I do or I don't enjoy it. It's just not the most accurate way to describe my motivations for doing things. Uh, I do this, I run this academy, I hone my skills because they are talents that I had been blessed with from an early age, and I have just always been driven to cultivate them. It just feels
Right.
it feels the natural thing to do. Maybe that's passion, but it feels a lot less complicated than that. It feels more simple,
Mhm.
more straightforward.
I think I understand what you mean, Mr. Raskin, at least in theory. Passion can tend to find itself running at odds with things like routine and simplicity.
Hmm.
If it encourages you to break with them or to pursue something spur of the moment, yes.
Precisely. I think that's why the cycles of Jewish life are so comforting to me. We study the Torah from beginning to end, and then we wrap the scroll back up and we start at the beginning again. It's a continuous circle. There's no end in sight, but there's a comfort in not having an end.
Yes. Neither an end nor beginning, but a lovely continuance.
Indeed. Well, I believe our dance is just about finished. It's been lovely to meet you, Miss Selkirk.
So it is, and it's been lovely to meet you as well, Mr. Raskin. Thank you.
I hope to see you at the Academy soon.
I do too. And thank you for fending and fielding all of my questions.
Anytime. I don't, we only have a few minutes left. I don't think I asked what Euphemia is dressed as.
Oh, yeah, no. I kind of glossed over it. Euphemia is dressed like in kind of simple-ish, like black and white monochrome dress. I had mentioned like she kind of splurged and used some of the money that she borrowed from the Cornelian Columbine to help pay for something nicer for this event. And her mask is like a very kind of simple, like domino mask, mostly white and cream with black accents.
Okay. I'm getting visions of the Royal Flush Gang from the DCAU.
Oh wow, yeah. Unintentionally, but yes.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. She spent the. Sorry.
That was a lovely scene. Thank you.
It was. Thank you.
I didn't mean to use all of our 20 minutes on it, but I think it was worth it.
No, yeah, it's absolutely worth it. Like, I was only thinking like if we don't manage to use the 20 minutes, but I think it went well, and it's been great. Like, very exciting to get the chance to play with you, like in an actual scene.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, and then so
I leave you.
You go to Duncan.
Yes, I do. Okay. Bye.
And
Have fun.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
All right. Waiting for boy. Duncan. Hi there.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, this scene has Mendel and Boy.
Yes.
So, what did you have in mind exactly?
I don't have anything in mind. I'm just here to have a good time.
Alright. Just wondering, since you had requested this. Did you, just looking at the Discord quick to see if you had specified Boy's costume? Just
ostentatious.
Nothing more than that. Okay. Alright. Well, Mendel is, I don't know if you had checked, Mendel is dressed as the hero from a Yiddish chivalric romance. He's dressed as Bovo from the Bovo Buch, or the Bovo Meise.
Very nice.
So, it's a little bit more than he tends to dress, but he's not as flashy as some of the other people here. So, I think Mendel, after finishing his dance with one Euphemia Selkirk, will notice Boy, kind of approach him, say, Mr. Haskett, enjoying the evening?
Indeed I am. I hope you are.
Yeah, more than I expected to, honestly. But I'm having a lovely time. Did you end up... did Eurydice end up finding you?
Not yet. Was she looking?
She was curious where you were. I don't know if looking for you is quite the right phrase, but... she did seem... not to know where you were and to be curious where you were. Her outfit really is spectacular tonight. I'm surprised that the two of you didn't coordinate.
Well, I wouldn't want to restrain her creativity.
Naturally.
She is far better at dressing herself than I am.
I'm pleased to see that her shoulder seems to have healed up rather nicely. I hope that it is not hindering her fencing performance.
I believe that it seems to have caused no lasting damage, which is very good, and is largely able to convince her not to push herself too hard. So I'm sure she's excited to get back to her training.
Have you heard anything more about the break-in? Who's behind it? Were you able to get the painting back?
We haven't found much of anything so far, but hopefully if the thieves do not have a sudden growth of conscience, then certainly there must be another painting we could find.
Hopefully. Well, good luck to you, at any rate.
I appreciate that.
Out of character. Are you interested at all in having L'Incorruptible and the Golden Apave interact? Because they have had kind of a bit of a dynamic, whereas Mendel and Boy haven't.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Just Not that this scene is bad or anything, but I'm struggling to
Yeah,
know
I
what
get
to
that.
say to you.
Small talk at parties.
It's the best thing for an RPG, isn't it? So what we need is a reason why we would switch into our masked identities at this party.
Yeah, I imagine for Boy, he's generally playing both sides. So I
Okay.
think he might be trying to get in with the Sims crowd as non-corruptible.
Okay, so I think after Mendel and Boy part ways for a bit, Mendel from a distance might notice L'Incorruptible and kind of think to himself, well, wait a minute, what's he doing here? And then kind of Superman it up and like find a corner and change into his costume. Like, you know. They had phone booths in the Regency, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
That seems to make sense.
You know, letter writing booths. So, de Gaulle comes out and, you know, predictably, there are lots of people. Oh, Mr. Colborne, I love your costume. Just, thank you. It's the least I could do. And he just kind of sidles up to L'Incorruptible. Fancy seeing you here.
Fancy seeing you.
I would have thought you'd stay away from mansions and manors after the last time.
You think me a coward?
Oh, not a coward, just... I thought that this sort of setting was more your style in the dark of night, away from prying eyes.
Ideally so, but some business is best conducted in the light, under masks.
Most interesting. How much did that job end up going for you? Out of curiosity. I know I'm being terribly nosy, but I'm curious how the other side is working out for you.
I don't think you need to see it as sides. Simply cross purposes. It's just a job in any case. I got what I needed out of it. I'm glad that there was not damage caused by us in any case.
Cute. Yes, it was interesting that most of the damage was caused by Mrs. Haskett herself. And a rather irate Mr. Haskett.
I would expect as much
For
on citing an intruder.
For a small man, he can throw a vase quite far.
You don't seem particularly injured.
Oh, no, I didn't say he aimed well. It's just a bit of a shame, you know? As you say, cross purposes. If I had not been obligated by my employer to prevent what you were obligated to do by your employer, their nice sitting room wouldn't have been in such disarray. Now would it?
It is a fascinating situation because I do not think of my relationship so much as an employee, but one who takes contracts. So one might say that my former employer is no longer working to my purposes.
Oh, I never meant to intimate that you are still in this relationship, but you're still in this line of work. We both are. And this whole state of affairs just really has me questioning whether the remuneration we receive is worth the hassle, you know? It's worth the headache, the embarrassment.
I suppose that depends on if your purpose is worth the trouble. Why do you wear the mask?
I'm glad you think yours was. As for why I wear the mask, the answer to that has changed quite a lot over the years. It's not something I'm going to answer in this room full of people. I'm not sure I know the answer anymore.
If you've nothing to fight for, then what cause is there to fight?
It's that word you brought up. Obligation. You wouldn't have me break a contract, would you?
I suppose not, though. Given the talk around town, I'm not sure I know what else you would have to lose.
Don't believe everything you hear around town. Duncan Colborne is just fine.
I'm trying to figure out how much I can push this without it being a token.
Yeah, that's tricky. We've gotten ourselves into a rough situation, but it's so good. Ugh. Damn it. I think we're at a really good moment for the Golden Apava to just kind of leave that hanging, actually.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Don't believe everything you hear. Duncan Colborne is just fine. Then he just kind of takes another sip of his champagne flute and sets it down on the table. And walks off, kind of flicks his cape with a flourish. So we're finished. We've got another 5 minutes before the break. Is there anything else you want to do? Maybe some connection stuff, micro scene of some kind, with that 5 minutes.
Yeah, we could do that. I think the only pre-existing link would be with Dorothea.
Okay, Dorothea and whom?
Oh,
Dorothea and Lynn.
yes.
Okay. I think after the Pav.
Actually, if I might make a counter proposal,
God.
I do believe that Eurydice told me that she was talking to Dorothea, so I could also do this meeting as boy, and that might be interesting new dynamic.
I don't think Eurydice and Dorothea have ever spoken.
Did they not? I might be confusing names in my head.
I don't remember speaking to Eurydice as Dorothea. I've only ever done villain shit with Dorothea.
Okay.
We
can do Lynn then.
I mean, we could have boy meeting Dorothea. But, like, either one you want to do with the time we have left is fine. I think Dorothea and boy makes a little bit more sense for this.
Sure.
Okay. So, after the two kind of Superman back into their civilian identities, I think boy notices Dorothea kind of gliding around the room in a very elaborate black and violet dress with a mask in a spiderweb pattern.
Yeah, I think.
And she just kind of turns to regard him and recognizes him and just kind of nods in a sort of stately way.
They will approach.
Climate Haskett, Jr., yes?
Indeed. You are Miss Berteau?
Berthoud, yes. It's a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance.
A pleasure to meet you.
How are you enjoying the festivities, Mr. Haskett?
It's been quite an interesting evening. Quite an arrangement of people who are drawn to these sorts of things.
Indeed. Quite a diverse crowd. I heard tell from my dear friend Sabina about a break-in in your home recently. My deepest condolences. I hope nothing was lost.
Yes, we did lose a painting of ours, but luckily it was not worse.
That is regrettable. I hope that it is returned to you soon.
I'm not sure how much we may hope for such a thing, but I certainly would like such a thing to be arranged.
Pardon me just a moment. The alarm for my meds is going off.
All good.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
All good.
I think that was all we really needed for that. So
Yeah,
it
I'm
is
happy with that.
9:45. We're gonna go on a 10-minute break, and I will see you later on. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hello.
So,
Yes, Eloise
I know
has
that-
definitely been spending the entire night going, Duncan can't possibly be the Golden Ababa. He doesn't wear colors.
yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Golden Ababa showed up, and people were all excited that Duncan Colborn was here.
That's fine. Lava broke into a room and robbed the room with how do you even pronounce her name? Eris something or another.
Aristea, something like that.
Eris and Katie.
Oh, Estrella. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's
Oh, yeah.
that Des plays the connection.
Right.
He was like, I've never played that connection so
Yeah.
far. I desperately want to play it, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so I know that I had requested you. I don't know if you requested me.
I cannot remember who I requested. I think I requested you though, because
Neat.
Violet
Yeah.
has already prepared her fans for the rewatch.
Yeah. So, do you have something in mind for Mendel and Eloise?
I mean, at the end of this, where she was just talking with Eurydice, she was talking about. They were talking about the benefits of marriage. So that, and earlier, even then, she had to admit to Selena to her face that Mendel had been teaching her fencing. So.
Okay. Well, and the recurring thing for Mendel has been that he's fairly uncomfortable at these things, even without the masquerade component.
Yes.
That he's had more fun than he expected. Like, he's started to get into it a bit. But seeing a familiar face will definitely be a welcome thing. So I think a good framing device would be Mendel seeing Eloise and just thinking to himself, I've been looking for you all night. And asking her to dance.
And she'll agree, partially because, she really wants to, whether she wants to admit it to herself or not, but also because the only person on her dance card so far has been Mr. Haskett, so her brother would not.
Oh my.
The only one on here is married already.
Yeah. So how is Eloise dressed for this?
In the Vibes channel, there is her dress, though it is the shoulders are actually on the shoulder because she is a young unmarried lady and collarbones are a no-no.
I see.
But her mask is similar to the one that I had on earlier, like this one. So, but it's instead of the black part, so it's still got all the sparkles and stuff, but the entire background is just decoupaged cut-ups of gossip articles. She would never cut up a real book, but she wanted it to look like there was a book.
Mendel is dressed as Bovo, who's the hero.
Yes, I read the article, but I did not get a chance to really see it.
No, it's fine. He's the hero of this Yiddish medieval romance.
It's very dramatic from the synopsis I read.
It is. So he's not a character that would be immediately recognizable to really anybody here, but he's some kind of medieval hero. Like, he's dressed up in that way, but it's not a very flashy costume.
As opposed to his other costume.
A very plain leather mask. So he approaches you and says, Miss Beckett, it's wonderful to see you. I've been wondering when we'd meet tonight.
Oh, Mr. Raskin, you've been mentioned several times in circles that I've been in tonight. I was wondering the same thing.
Have I now?
Yes, mostly of your abilities as a fencing instructor, but though Eurydice Haskett was very, very quick to point out that her own instructor was just as talented.
Yes, well, she does have rather strong feelings about St. Vincent.
Yes,
Would you care
well,
to dance?
I would. Yes. I don't know if you noticed on that particular YouTube playlist I put together, there's actually a dance that was used in the time that is literally called the Peacock.
I didn't notice that, but I'm rather pleased about that.
When I found it, I was like, yes! Add it to the list. Don't even need to listen to it.
Hmm.
It's a waltzy kind of thing, so.
Have you enjoyed the evening?
I have, surprisingly. Well, at first I was a little bit disappointed that I could not find a library to hide in, as I have been wont to do at past parties. I did manage to finally make the acquaintance of Miss Selkirk.
Yes, I danced with her earlier this evening. I found her most invigorating.
Yes, between her and Mr. Pendleton, I imagine there are plenty of bookworms around Haverston for me to talk with.
Hmm. I must say you look rather lovely tonight, Miss Beckett.
She pauses and there's a little bit of light blushing under her mask that maybe he can see, but maybe not from the height angle.
Who knows?
Just, oh, thank you. You look quite dashing yourself. Very knightly, if I must say so.
So, a little unclear as to what I should go for. I've never been to a party like this before. I don't know that anyone's ever dressed up as this character before either. It's hard to come up with a costume for a character that you've only imagined in your head when reading the book.
It's like when he says book, she goes her ears. She goes, oh.
Well, yes, I'm dressed as Bovo, the hero from the Bovemheise.
Ah.
It's a very, very old Yiddish story. It's a chivalric romance. It's a hero.
I wonder if Mr.
who's-
Pendleton has a copy of it.
He probably does. He probably has a translation of it in another language. It does not originate as a Jewish story, but the Yiddish translation was one of the most popular works of Yiddish literature for many, many centuries. It originated, I believe, as an English knightly story that ended up being translated into Yiddish somewhere in Italy.
Interesting. I'll have to check for it on my next visit to.
Perhaps.
And she stops there because she realizes she's about to walk into something that would be like, how you were in his library?
Mendel is unlikely to make that connection at this time. He just figures, oh, well, she's been chatting with Pendleton. They're probably... But when thinking about it later, he might...
Yeah.
We're dropping hints.
Yeah.
You're dropping hints, I'm dropping hints.
Yes.
Yes, it's quite an adventurous tale. It was read to me as a boy by my father.
Those tend to be the best kind of stories.
Hmm.
I cherish the ones that my father read to me when I was younger.
Hmm. What kind of stories did you enjoy?
Well, mostly adventures where the main character was able to escape their life in one way or another. Several Shakespearean works were particularly of my interest, though maybe a little bit morbid because, well, a lot of people die in Shakespearean works, but there's almost a thrill to that as well. I can see why some people in this town have taken to a dual identity.
Hmm. I suppose you're right. There is a certain thrill in it. Although I have to wonder whether it's a thrill that wears off after a while.
Perhaps if one's priorities are questioned or changed.
I have a hard time imagining that. I have a hard time imagining that it's a life I would get much fulfillment out of, frankly.
I mean, I can see the appeal, but I would imagine that once I had achieved any objective that I had set out to, I would quickly get bored. And then, like always, I would return to my books. And besides, it seems that having a masked identity nowadays is causing more harm than good. We saw what happened with the Haskets. Poor Eurydice got stabbed. And by whom most people think is Duncan Colborne, no less.
True enough, although from what she told me about it, it really sounded like an incidental wound. It didn't seem like the sort of thing this masked fellow did on purpose.
Well, who would know other than the Golden Apollo himself?
Who indeed?
I'm just thankful that Mr. Haskett was able to enter the scene before anything else could have happened, though sadly that painting was stolen, and I can only imagine what hardships lay in the future, if not only for interior decorating purposes.
Indeed. I have to confess some curiosity when you mention so many people mentioning me to you. What kind of conversations are you getting into where I would be such an interesting topic of conversation, Gindala?
And she pauses for a second. Before I answer that, why do you keep calling me that?
It's just a Yiddish term of endearment. It's one of many affectionate terms in the language for friends or other people that one can use for someone that one is fond of.
She ponders it for a second and then says, well, I'm glad to know that I'm somebody that you are fond of. I find myself to be fond of you as well. But to answer your question, mostly the conversation was about how I managed to end up under your tutelage to begin with, and then a short discussion on your previous relationship with Miss Colborne.
Ah, I see. His expression darkens a bit when you mention that.
I imagine that it wasn't a happy break, considering that she got very tense when it was mentioned.
It was very difficult for both of us. We cared very deeply for one another.
Well, I'm sorry that it has put such a strain on any friendship you may have now.
He just kind of turns ahead as if to shrug as best he can while dancing.
Yes.
It is done. It is beyond my control.
Yes, well, I do hope that it does not bother you too much that I am friends with Miss Colborne.
Not at all. She's a fine person.
She is, and a
You're
very good
keep-
fencer.
You're keeping excellent company.
Yes. She is an excellent fencer. I imagine that is your doing.
Not as such. I never formally instructed her. But we did spar together.
Yes, she's recommended you highly, so I imagine that as far as that particular topic goes, there's no ill will between the two of you.
I imagine there would be.
And say, I think we're almost at time if there's anything else.
I think the last thing would be Mendel would kind of look down at her. So I'll start to say something and then just kind of stop as the dance comes to a close.
Oh, they've also been dancing for like 10 minutes now, so that's like super scandalous. It's like 2 dances worth.
Well,
Just add a little.
the way that I choose to read it is that the scene is 10 minutes long. That doesn't necessarily mean it's 10 minutes of real in-game time. It's like how time
That's
kind of
true.
time slows down because we care about each other so much.
Like the scene that, unfortunately, I feel like Violet may understand. There's a scene in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice where they dance and like everything disappears in the room except for the two of them.
Yeah. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he looks down at her and just kind of starts to say something.
Yeah.
And then stops and says, I hope we see each other again soon, Miss Becca.
As do I, Mr. Raskin. And she like curtsies and then maybe makes her way over to the lemonade table where there's macarons, as I've established earlier. Her favorite.
All right. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yes, that was fun.
All right.
Have fun in your next group, which
I go to Duncan. So, right.
we've sowed enough chaos for him tonight.
Indeed. All right, and that's the end of my broadcast. So,
Yes.
all right. See ya.
See ya.